Hi, I'm Maren. I am an astrologer and social media personality and entrepreneur focusing on finance and mostly crypto, and you're listening to REKT.
Hello and welcome to REKT Podcast. I am Bunchu alongside my esteemed colleague and co-host Chamber. Chamber, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited. We have had this guest, I think, on the books for a few weeks now, which is pretty rare for us. We usually it's like 3 days before, let's get this person on. So this one's been on the calendar for longer than we normally have. So I've been looking at it for a while.
Maybe it's been in the stars for years and we just didn't know it.
Probably.
Maybe our paths are aligning finally after years and years of being on our paths to meet. What do you think about that, Chamber?
I'm 100% agree. I'm very excited for today's show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's nice to have Maren on.
Yeah, looking forward to speaking as well.
Awesome. So we have Maren on with us today. As Chamber said, very exciting. I would say recently, in the last couple months, you've made quite a big splash into the crypto scene. So we're excited to kind of talk about, what you were up to before crypto, how you got into crypto, and let's and then dive into some of this astrology stuff. I think we've had one other person, I would say, that is kind of, and it's probably not his main source of the crypto financial markets, but he definitely used it, and that would be like DJ Thistle. You remember?
100%. Yeah. That's the first time I'd ever heard anybody use astrology for any sort of like finance. Like I didn't realize that was a thing until a few years ago when I heard DJ talking about it. So as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. I want to hear more. So I'm excited today.
So let's start here. So Maren, you are newish to crypto and crypto Twitter, I would say, but you are no stranger to the social media space. Am I correct? You have a million followers on TikTok?
Yeah, so I've been on social media for, I'd say, a decade, starting out as kind of growing up with it as a kid and then having it throughout my adolescence. But honestly, I did not have over 1,000 followers on any platform until I joined TikTok last spring into summer. So that has all grown within the past 6 to 7 months.
My goodness.
Definitely no stranger now, but the exposure therapy and the insanity that comes with that is fairly new to me. So I definitely feel like the same person I knew when I had 200 followers that I do with now 1 million. So not a different person, but very different dynamic.
That's insane. I mean, Chamber wishes Chamber is wishing to get to 10,000 followers. And like when that milestone happens, 10, 15 years from now, it's going to be a big day for him. But like, I can't even fathom, like a million followers is like, I would say like famous level on many scales, right?
Bunchu. This is the first guest we've ever had that my wife was like, "Oh my, this is who you're having on." She was 100% in the know.
That's crazy to think about.
Because like the human mind apparently cannot conceptualize knowing more than 250 people at a time. So even most people have more interactions on social media than that. And it honestly just gets to a point where like I cannot conceptualize that many people. I just know that it means that the high highs and the low lows get more extreme, and it's just weird. Like you don't become like a different person. It's just that you can no longer check your notifications.
Yeah, right. Well, that's probably a huge thing, right? I mean, you probably had to turn your notifications off pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of incredible to think about that. If you just took everybody who lives in New York City, and just box them into 7 parts, 8 parts, 1/8 of those people follow you. Like
Wow.
that's insane.
Wow.
You
That
know,
is
you could fill Times Square with the amount of people that follow you on TikTok, which is insanity.
What I do notice about different social medias is that the follower count kind of varies, right? So like
Right.
a million on TikTok, I don't know if what does that equate to versus like Twitter versus Instagram? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's definitely much, much easier to grow a following on TikTok because of the way that the algorithm works, where it will shoot you out to so many people. So organic growth on TikTok is incomparable to any other platform because you see mostly people that you aren't following, but that the algorithm assumes that you want to see. So that's why a million on TikTok, even though it's impressive and a big number, I mean, I have like 70 to 80K on both Instagram and Twitter each, and I have like 130K subscribers on YouTube. So it doesn't convert directly over because you're getting, I consider TikTok top of the funnel audience, where you're getting people from all over the world, all different demographics, and then it narrows down on the platforms where people have to follow you to keep up with your content.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So,
I'm going to be honest with you, Bunchu. I have something to admit. I would say the last 2 weeks, I have been very much on TikTok. Not posting anything, but definitely consuming a lot of media.
Should we be posting on TikTok? Is that what we should be doing after this?
I even went so far as to make my first video and immediately deleted it the other day.
Wow! And now,
no, that's not the right one.
Why is that, Chamber? Are you just were you afraid to put yourself out there? What was this video, by the way?
It was just I couldn't. The nice thing about I'm gonna promote TikTok a lot right now because I am totally enthralled with it lately. The amount of quality work that goes into all these people's posts, or I don't know what they're called, but whatever the videos are, is insane. And what
you sound so old right now.
I know. I'm 100%. I'm the oldest person on Twitter. I'm dead on TikTok. Okay. But the amount of quality that goes into each one that you kind of flip through, and the quantity you can go through, like you can go through so much different media so fast, and it's very high quality, and I'll blink an eye and an hour has gone by and I'm like, shit, was I just on TikTok for an hour?
You have no attention span. I mean, I already was a very fast-paced person, but I cannot imagine sitting through an entire film nowadays. Like 1 minute TikTok
that's so
is
funny.
A commitment.
It's funny that you say that because, like, I've found my wife and I, it's the same thing. Like, we don't watch movies anymore.
Yeah,
like we really don't, and I think it's because of that. Like, I don't want to sit through a 2.5 hour movie, but like, I'll sit there and binge, Netflix 40-minute shows. Like, it's no problem. But I don't know what it is. It's just that
even you beat me with
span.
that. Unless it's something that I can like take notes on and learn from, I am shot from TikTok. It's bad. So that's the downside. But I mean, yeah.
So what brought you to, TikTok in the first place? And so like, what kind of, how long have you been making? Is it the same kind of content you're making, now on Twitter? What kind of brought you to that whole space to begin with?
Yeah. So right as the world was shutting down, like that week, I happened to be on a retreat in Sedona, and I was with a bunch of friends, and one of them, we were on a hike, and one of them was like, get in my TikTok dance. She was filming, and I was like, what do you mean TikTok dance? Like, I barely knew what the app was about. I knew it was short form video sharing. I do not TikTok dance. I'm very awkward. I did some weird move and then like told her to delete it, but she was like, are you on TikTok? Like, you should do it. I don't see anyone with your kind of astrology on there. And I said, maybe I will download it. And so then when I was in my final semester at NYU undergrad, I'm still in New York, but I was finishing my last semester at New York University, and it gets shut down like as I'm returning. So basically I miss school for a week, and by the time I get back, I have ended my entire in-person school career. And I'm like, okay, well, not that I had more time per se, because I was still working a lot, but I had more availability to have my phone on hand, I decided to download TikTok, and I didn't post anything until April. I just was not really, I could feel the power if I was going to dive into it. I don't know what it was about, but I could just feel that if I were to open the app, there would be something important there. And within a week of starting to play around with it, because there's so many features, I mean, it takes like a good week even for my fast learning brain to like understand the complexity of it. I posted a video called Why I Hate Your Zodiac Sign. It was satire, but like my satire is kind of vicious. And so I was like cussing, and I was probably like really offensive. And because TikTok shoots you out to whoever, like if you don't have a following, they're going to shoot your content out to what's the common denominator demographic, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds. So this very profane, hideous satire goes out to kids that immediately comment so much hate, or like I'm crying, or I can't, this is terrible. No one understood it. I did a YouTube video on the same topic months earlier, which is what I just based the video on. And even that was like adults were like, I'm offended. So I wasn't surprised, but it blew up so quickly because the amount of engagement I was getting was like insane. Like people were watching it all the way through. It just took off. And so immediately that video got like 100,000 views in a day. I had never gotten more than like 200 likes on an Instagram photo, 50 views on a YouTube video. Like I was no one was seeing my content. So that blew up. And for the first, from like April into July, I was doing almost all satire or trend content because I didn't know that TikTok had an audience for the kind of astrology I did on a daily basis, which is mostly like political or financial or technical based. And I just saw TikTok as like my blow off. And then my account, we still don't know why, but my account got shadow banned and stopped letting other people watch its videos. It started having followers removed. So I had to create a new account in September after having like 4 months of no followers gained, because I thought it was weird. It's happened to several people I know. It seems like a weird algorithm, like when they assume you're a bot or something. So I started a new TikTok in September, and I was like, this is new. I'm going to post more of what I actually do on a daily basis, which is more cycles and things that I enjoy. Started posting political and financial content, and that started resonating with an audience that was more older. I know that my audience is older than me. I can see in the analytics that most of my audience is older, and that started to match up on TikTok. And that is how it got me into being the Bitcoin and election astrologer. That showed me that I'm not good at the trends as compared to the 12-year-olds, but for the things that do take research, that's where I'm at.
That's super interesting.
That's really interesting. Chamber, yeah. I feel like you would do good on TikTok. Actually.
Honestly,
your tweets are
fire.
I was gonna say controversial. I guess
they are
maybe sometimes, but nobody gets to see them because you don't have any followers.
I definitely need an algorithm pushing out my content.
I think you would do good in algorithmic based platforms. So I think you need to start, maybe you take control of a REKT Podcast Twitter and TikTok, and you get it out there. What do you think? Should we make a REKT Podcast TikTok now?
What? Yeah, maybe. I think we might. I was going to the other day, and I did not want the flagging that was going to come, or pardon me, the flogging that was going to come with
from me.
From you seeing you've created a TikTok account, REKT Podcast.
Well, look, I'm giving it the thumbs up right now. I need you to you can get your creative juices flowing with TikTok content. I mean, we've seen a couple people that we have either had on the show or that we know from Twitter that have blown up on TikTok. I think Wendy has...
Wendy could be... I could see that being very popular.
Now. Yeah, so there's definitely some crypto content, obviously, that is desired on TikTok.
Do you think our buddy Shil Nye will ban me from TikTok as well?
Yes, probably. So that's super interesting. So thanks for sharing that. So how did you kind of get into astrology in the, where did that all start, and how long have you been doing that, and what kind of guided you to, as you mentioned, like political / financial stuff?
So I grew up in like a really normal, not normal, but like just Texas family. Like no one was into anything interesting, but I started reading at a really early age. And so my family, as like a toddler, would give me newspapers, and I didn't care about the comics or the kids section. I just read what was next to it of the words, and those were the horoscopes. And I didn't understand what I was reading, obviously, but I can say that astrology found me at a very, very early age. And so growing up with the internet, I just researched a ton, and most of it was absolute bullshit, meaningless, like woo woo personality quiz things that weren't representative of more of the tradition. But I was just so immersed and obsessed with learning about myself and learning about other people's astrology. And so throughout my life, it was just kind of like I was the girl at the sleepover or then later at the party that would do your chart and talk to you and was always into astrology. And that took me into in high school. I really, really loved my ethics and world religions classes, and I didn't really understand why no one else found these philosophy classes the most interesting things ever, because I had grown up thinking I would be an actor. Like, I then went to NYU for acting, and immediately I get there, I have kind of a 180 wake up in my mind, and I'm like, you love to study philosophy so much more than you do to put on a show anymore. Like, this is in line with your astrology, because now at that point in my astrology, I was focusing more on cycles of world events and larger, like working with people. I think was interesting at first, but it seems more sustainable to work with world events because you don't get things like compassion fatigue, or just with me being someone who I feel more drawn to things like politics and finance rather than personal development or therapy and things like that. It's a really different consideration of the way that you work with astrology, because you're not as much concerned with like one-on-one work, but more analysis. And that led me into studying philosophy at university, and also psychology and creative writing, but not as much. And from there, I throughout that period of I did undergrad in 3 years, and it was just a ton of just endless research, building up my client base and my business. And I was pretty obsessed with just learning as much as I could to fast track that combination. And my last semester of undergrad, I realized that I was graduating. I knew nothing about money. And even though I had been studying politics in congruence with astrology, I knew nothing about finance. And I didn't think that would combine with astrology. I mean, there are financial astrologers, but most of them are much older men that have experience with, like, I don't know, hedge funds or doing other things in the finance industry. And I did not. I had studied philosophy, but all of a sudden I was like, I'm a responsible person. I have not learned a thing about how to manage my own money. I should Google that before I graduate. And
wouldn't it be nice if they taught that?
exactly. Like, I took a few business management classes, and I was kind of unamused. They seemed very difficult, and I just kind of wanted to do everything. But I started learning about finance and immediately thought it was the most interesting thing in the world. But I had so many questions. And I mean, I just think that learning about philosophy and then learning about finance turns you immediately into kind of a libertarian leaning person that will learn about crypto and immediately be like, this is the solution. And
totally,
that took off. The epitome of when I really, really like awake. Like, I remember trying to open a Roth IRA, it being so complicated that I accidentally opened a normal IRA and put all the year's worth of IRA in Tesla during the March 2020 crash, which ended up being amazing. But at the time, it was like, what did I did? I just meant to search that. Like, I did not mean to put my entire IRA in Tesla. And it worked out very well, though. So I did it again this year on purpose in a Roth IRA when I converted it. Because again, the red tape was just so frustrating. And I'm someone who, like, my life tenet philosophy is parsimony, or the simplest theory is preferable. So the fact that there was so much complexity to finance, and I found it so interesting, like I was reading the tax code for fun, brought me into learning about blockchain and crypto. And I'm not a developer. I don't have tech background, but I grown up around developers with like a family business in web design and software. And so I just fell into it like very, very obsessively. It was the middle of the March crash. It fell into place, and it took me a few months to actually buy into Bitcoin. I didn't invest in Bitcoin until around my birthday in August, but since then, it's just been something that I didn't realize it never made sense to me why my own natal chart in astrology had such a huge emphasis on money, because I was like, I'm going to be an actor. And then all of a sudden you learn about finance and I'm like, okay, I get it. Like never has something been so interesting. Or I look at all kinds of charts, whether it's candlestick or planets. So they combine.
What's a natal chart?
It's the chart of anything that is born. So that can be a human life, a company. It's the chart of the planetary alignments at the inception or birth of an entity.
Oh, so that means REKT Podcast has a natal chart.
Yeah, I have that pulled up.
Yes, we're gonna do that later. That'll be fun. So, yeah. Chamber, what do you think here? What, you got some questions?
I do. So you're very, I'm hearing you speak, very professional. In kind of how you're presenting this, but it takes me as I'm not a skeptic by any means. Bunch, you can attest to this.
I welcome skepticism. We all need it.
I'm not a staunch skeptic. Put it that way.
Right.
How accurate, how confident are you in some of these charts that are, in your non-typical, your planetary charts or I don't know, star charts? I don't know what else you're looking at.
Yeah.
But like, how accurate are these?
So the charts themselves are mirrors for reality. So you can think of it kind of like how the clock on the wall is going to tell you the time. Like the planetary alignments can reflect what's happening on Earth. And the more experience that you have in understanding those correlations, the more accurate your delineations or your commentary can be, because we can see the symbolism manifest in hindsight, but it takes both awareness of what the trends have been and the ability to have context and real world knowledge to ground your future predictions for them to be accurate. So it's kind of like this dance between the objective, what the planetary alignments are saying, and then the astrologer themselves either having the combination of context and awareness or training in the field to translate that accuracy into words.
Because I actually had a crisis of being a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion without, you're obviously very well educated in philosophy and that kind of thing. I am not, or I wasn't, still I'm not. But I was having this crisis of being, and I was having trouble with free will.
Right.
And how it really didn't make any sense because, what I was going through at the time was just like, well, it doesn't make any sense because every decision that I make in my mind was like almost like a domino effect to that moment.
Right.
Right. And I came, I was having this issue, and I ended up speaking to a colleague of mine, and he's like, he had studied in this kind of, in this field before, and he's like, oh, you're going through, and this is what you're going through is called determinism. Like free will is not necessarily there. It's kind of like a domino effect of moments going through your life. And I'm like, well, then if that's the case, isn't there some sort of predictive element? If you had a supercomputer, if you will, that could just take all of the possibilities from these moments going forward, couldn't you predict what could happen to a certain degree of certainty in the future? And it sounds like we're almost using astrology to kind of do that a little bit.
Yeah, that's funny that you bring that discussion up, because being someone who's much more concerned with the philosophy and rationale behind astrology than necessarily like the personality quiz part, I talk a lot about free will versus determinism and how astrology can describe how we can still have our free will. There's multiple different definitions of it. Some people think that free will means the ability to do anything. I like to specify it as the ability to do what's within your power as a reasonable human agent. Like there's the confines of nurture, nature, circumstance, and whatnot, but that doesn't remove the free will that is just actionable. And astrology kind of shows us that the way that we use our free will is determined. Like we are still the people doing the things, but if hypothetically, like you mentioned, we were in a computer able to read the timeline, we would see that we can already know how we're going to act, but that does not mean that we aren't the ones acting. So it's a bit of agency inception, I like to say, with astrology showing us that, wait, we can see what we're going to do, but we're going to do it. So like, how are we seeing? Are we seeing that we're going to do it? And it kind of goes in and out. But I think that it's kind of difficult to understand the game if you're in the game. So I try not to stress myself up too much about it. I just make YouTube videos.
That's a very good explanation. Now imagine being me, mind burnt from copious amounts of marijuana over the decades, and I'm sitting there, in a corner of a bedroom, just shaking, thinking about all these things. So
I'm picturing the Stewie Griffin in the shower.
100%. This is what's going through my brain, my brain damaged mind.
That's funny.
I wish I'd met you earlier so you could at least talk me through it.
The stars have aligned for you to meet her today, Chamber. That's it.
Perfect. Here we are.
So that's really fascinating stuff. So, where I guess because I think most people's view on astrology is not to be predicting political events or financial markets, right? I think they, like you said, when you were a kid, you were reading the horoscopes in the paper, right? So how did you find, I guess, the astrology correlation between financial markets? Like, if somebody was interested in learning that stuff, where do they start? Do you know what I'm asking there?
Yeah. So astrology itself is a pretty vast study of multiple different correlations, and it's kind of within the past 100 years that certain translation efforts and it's kind of a historical accident that 100 years ago it turned into sun sign horoscope columns. Not that anyone tried to dumb it down or tried to simplify it, but the way that it resurged after a couple 100 years of being buried was through that kind of more pop culture-y aspect, which is not bad, not good. It simply is, and it gets a lot of people in the door, and at the same time it takes a lot of people out of the door because of the way that it kind of does dilute some things. But the more that one studies it, if you really do look at, I was like growing up with the internet, I was able pretty quickly to see how deep it could go, but I wasn't old enough to maybe appreciate that historical context until I was a teenager. And I didn't start thinking about financial astrology until the March crash, when I was like, oh my gosh, like what were the financial astrologers saying about this? Because it's easy to think that you're not into financial astrology when you've never learned anything about finance. And then once I started learning it, I honestly couldn't find that many financial astrologers online or in social media, and still to this day, in the astrology field for the past couple of years, I haven't really consumed others' content because I've been so focused on myself and then studying finance. Like, it's kind of funny, I don't really watch other astrologers. I just do my thing and then occasionally learn about leverage trading.
Yeah, I've heard a bunch of actual content creators say something similar recently, where they don't watch other people's content because they want to keep their own mind clear for their stuff, right? And they want it to be purely what they think of a certain situation or work, right? You know what I mean? So anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I think also for me, I tend to be pretty direct and I get a lot more out of data and trends and not math, but numbers, than I do trying to, talk about something comfortable or self-development-y or the inner soul. I don't know. I value that in certain times and places, and that's not what really gets me going, which is different than a lot of astrology content. And I, with that, just immediately started kind of looking at what I already knew to be meanings of certain planetary alignments, but then watching that with the markets led me to kind of start my own correlations in financial markets, which are pretty self-explanatory if you already understand basic astrology. It's just that with financial astrology, things can be much more precise because, for example, if you're seeing in the world a certain alignment is happening, that can have a few days kind of give or take because it can represent different events around the world. Whereas in financial markets, if you see a certain alignment, I love how I can take note of the exact day and time and then be right after that, I'd expect either some kind of news to come about. I was expecting something really notable with Tesla middle of February. They buy 1.5 billion in Bitcoin, and things like that, where I can tell the more specific times, dates, and context with financial astrology because it's much more of a precise numbers game.
That's pretty fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
Chamber, you got any sweet predictions based on time and place? Because I mean, it would be pretty cool to know about Tesla.
Yeah, it would be very cool to know about Tesla. I mean, did I not predict? We didn't talk about this the other day, but did I not predict the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl like a few months ago?
A prophet.
I don't remember.
Did they win? I didn't watch it.
Yeah, they won. Tom Brady.
I feel like I have to go check the tapes because I'm pretty sure I picked, like months ago we talked about this. And I said you can't bet against Brady.
I'm not sure you used astrology to do such a thing, but I'll give it to you.
I was outside at night. I'm pretty sure it counts.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. I think it's super fascinating. I like to love to hear the different perspectives of people in finance, whether it's a trading strategy or astrology. And I think part of being in this space to begin with, you have to have an open mind to kind of 100%. All of these things, right? Having an open mind is kind of how we all got to crypto to begin with, right? Like you said, you kind of you have to be. It's like skepticism is why we're here to begin with. And so in taking all these unique views into consideration is pretty awesome. So now I do want to ask, how was you haven't always been received the best on crypto Twitter since you've arrived. How has that been, for you? I feel like you've gotten a lot of haters and things like that. So what's your experience been there?
I'm going to be honest. I have not found it that difficult to be on crypto Twitter, and I absolutely I resonate with crypto Twitter in a lot of ways a lot more than other communities. I just feel like I found like my people who are just like smart, intelligent, talented, but just communicate in memes. And I did not at first I was like, why are people copying and pasting the rudest paragraphs in response to me? And then I quickly learned and do the same thing. So I honestly have not occasionally, I don't even want to call it hater because I feel like it's just dismay and just like not even like they're quote tweeting it so they can say something funny and get a reaction. Like, it's my name in your mouth. Go ahead. That's fine. So I honestly, I have people that are like, oh my God, you're dealing with all these men degrading. I'm like, I don't think they're degrading me. They're just memeing me. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe
that's very true, actually. But I feel like that's actually a really good way to think about it because that's what it is.
There are legitimate, other communities tangentially that I say I don't identify with as much because I feel like I'm more someone at this point who's interested in finance and uses astrology, but I have my own ideas for starting blockchain companies and things where it's I'm in finance and I use astrology as my tool, but there's been I just feel more well received because I say a lot that's satirical. I'm very dry and no one is coming after me for that in the crypto community. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's what we kind of are, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. I like the reaction to quote tweeting because I think you're 100% right. We just want to say something funny about what somebody else said, and It is good because, like you said, my name is in your mouth, and that's a good thing.
Right.
I wish people quote tweeted me and just made fun of me all the time, just so I could,
You just want more followers, though.
Just want more followers, essentially, yeah.
Well, wait till you blow up on TikTok. I see it coming.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the quote tweets.
You're gonna get huge on TikTok. I mean, look, the other big crossover from TikTok lately was Cousin Crypto Chamber. So is he
on TikTok now, or is he from TikTok?
No, he was from TikTok.
That makes more sense.
It was that account. The TikTok investors tweeted one of his videos out, and it went.
That's how crypto Twitter found. I had been talking about finance and crypto for weeks, if not months. It was not until TikTok investors found me through a really weird video I did. It was weird. I had to delete it because it was getting too much. It was getting too much hate, and I didn't feel confident in the theory. But I did a weird video about when I thought alignments of stock market crashes would come again, and I recently redid it because I'm fuck it, I'm confident now. But it blew up on TikTok investors, and initially I was who's this this dumbass trying to make fun of me, but he's defended me actually. So I realize now he's actually whoever's him, her, I don't know.
It's totally what you said. They're memeing these videos, right? Like,
so
that's exactly
now, and then I saw, that's how I blew up, was then all of a sudden after that blew up, it's funny because I'm an astrologer, I'm not a witch, but like I became the Bitcoin witch, and like immediately crypto Twitter, like it's just, it blew up. And at first I was overwhelmed. I didn't know it existed. I became friends and close with all these anonymous meme accounts that would like be really, really supportive and so kind. And I don't know their name, their face. I just know them as like their specific Pepe meme, and they're very kind. And they tell me about like, I don't know, some of their situations personally, and we like help each other out. And they let me in on like when they think a coin's gonna pump, and it's very nice. But it's funny seeing like Cousin Crypto come over, and immediately I saw it and was like genius, like in early on the game. Yeah.
I think you need to be the next Cousin Crypto, Chamber. Except
oh my goodness!
With your dad bod and you know.
I'd kill for a dad bod.
You'd kill for a dad bod. All right, so Chamber, you want to get into a little bit of astrology talk about the markets, right?
I sure, yeah. Like we should, we should kind of dive into a little of this astrology. Yeah. Can we do like a Bitcoin kind of like chart, or you know what I mean? Like what have you seen in Bitcoin? Is that something you can chart? I'm not sure. I know there's a date of that it started, so I figure we probably can.
Yeah, most of the work that I have done recently has been with the Bitcoin and Ethereum charts, and it's been interesting because we're in a Mercury retrograde, which tends to be about reversals or consolidations and more troubled news. And I've seen it mostly playing out in the news with just annoying headlines that are nothing new, but are like Janet Yellen saying things and being like, this is not, just kind of things like that, where you're like, the communication is not up to par with what's actually going on. Like all this, like Bitcoin has like a 2% correction, and then all of a sudden it's, useless and whatever. And then the other things going on, this is going to sound probably a bit complicated, but there's a Venus-Jupiter conjunction, which Venus and Jupiter are the two planets that indicate growth and favorability and like price increase. And they're over points in the Bitcoin chart that are very important. Bitcoin has a lot going on in the exact areas of the sky that they're in right now. So that looked extremely favorable. And in my Bitcoin year ahead forecast, I noted this because it's kind of a weird time overall where it's almost like we should be breaking out more than we are, but it's favorable right now. And until the end of February, I don't see there being as much favorability as there could be otherwise. But like May into July has some ridiculously bullish indicators that are like just kind of insane, even compared to the 2017 runs and whatnot. So right now there's some pretty good astrology that is separating. Like it peaked around when Tesla made the announcement, and then there was a huge raise up to high 40Ks. And now there's some other blips in there, but I'm really excited for May into July.
So some of the charts were actually in alignment with Tesla announcing the 1.5 billion.
Yeah, it's funny because I'd been looking at Tesla's chart around this time for like a couple months because I know that chart really well, and I was like, oh my god, middle of February looks huge. It looks really favorable, but also really controversial, which will make sense because like environmentalists and whatnot are already like kind of up Tesla's ass. And then like this adding on, like I've already seen that kind of backlash, but that I didn't assume that like Tesla and Bitcoin together would be around the same thing. I just knew that both of them looked good during this period. So it definitely collided to have the symbolism overlap there. Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. So what are we looking at for Ethereum?
You mentioned, hold on, I have questions now.
Sorry.
So you mentioned bullish indicators from May to July, right? Is that what you said? So do you expect some kind of either kind of cooling off period for Bitcoin, or are we talking, a retrace here? How does that work, and how do you typically, play these type of things that you see in the chart? Are you actively trading these charts this way, or how does that work?
Yeah, so what I see is basically the planet Jupiter is going to be going over Bitcoin's natal Venus in a really, really positive position middle to end of May, which looks like it will be really, really big price high. And then Jupiter will retrograde back over that period by the end of July, which looks like it will retrace, maybe hit that high again. And I do for one, I do dollar cost average because I want to make sure that I'm putting in just money, like just holding on just all the time. But when I do know that there will be price lows, I tend to time them around that. And then if I see that there's a really favorable time coming up, like I will trade and I will go long. And that's been more recent because I took a few months to really research TA because I felt like it was something that I knew I would get really into, and I did not want to just get wrecked immediately because I know that I'm someone who would want to use. I didn't want to just do I don't know, smaller trades.
100x long.
I have not done 100x long quite yet because I have not found that I've not done that high of leverage yet, but I do tend to use leverage.
Don't.
I do tend to be pretty, I'm not going to. Yeah. So I tend to use trades when I see it as this is just undeniable, both with the astrology then gets me looking to the TA to find more specifics. And
interesting, yeah. So you'd be looking for a spot to long probably May through July. That's
my god,
based on what you're saying here.
Might pull out the 100x leverage for the first time. Then we'll see.
Oh wow, okay.
I'm kidding. Wow. I'm not. I don't think I'd go that high. I don't even. Yeah.
Interesting. That's pretty cool, right? Like if it's. And then I would be interested to see, what, and I think Chamber, you were kind of getting here, when you see these things in Bitcoin, what the correlation is for the other markets in crypto, whether it's Ethereum or altcoins. So Chamber, what was your next question?
I was just going to say, because I would imagine Ethereum and Bitcoin look significantly different. I would imagine, right?
So what's funny is that they don't have similar charts themselves, but the way that transits work is the Bitcoin and Ethereum charts are scarily opposite, which means that if a planet is hitting one in one place, it's going to be opposing it at the other place, which is also an activation. So the coupling makes sense. And usually if there's something going on in one, it's going to really indicate the other one. And similarly with altcoins, you have to take the Bitcoin chart into consideration because it's kind of like, I don't know, if you're looking at the chart of a family and the kids are young, you'd want to look at the parents as well if they're being taken care of by the parents. So with altcoins, it gets more complicated. I've looked a lot at Doge because I could see that this year was weirdly insane. I actually see a better year for it next year, probably more sustainability, but you can look at altcoins and you can see how they're doing, and then you want to use Bitcoin for context is what I'd say. And then for Ethereum, even though it often does couple with Bitcoin, it is independent in the way that sometimes I can see certain days and times are favorable for it that don't have to do with Bitcoin.
Interesting. What are some of the what are some of those highlights?
So that's funny. I actually just filmed a YouTube video on Ethereum for the year because I did one for Bitcoin for the year and then kind of put off doing one for Ethereum. But coming up nearing the end of February, so February 23rd, I've been looking at this kind of
That's my
weirdly.
birthday.
Oh my gosh. Happy solar return. That's what we call birthdays in astrology because the sun's returning to where it was. So February 23rd-ish looks like a favorable day, but very mixed as well because it's having Venus opposing its natal Jupiter, but also Mars squaring its natal Mars by degrees. So it's two very intense, one very favorable, one very unfavorable aspect that makes it, usually this ends up being really big green candle, but then you fall right back down kind of quickly. So weird indicator that I'm interested in seeing how it plays out because as someone who is versed in astrology but young in finance, some of the things where I'm wait, I understand what this would mean just energetically, but I want to see how this plays into the market. So February 23rd-ish, and that can be, I'd say give it a day or two after because sometimes time zones don't correlate specifically, given some markets can go more than others. But then I'd say February 23rd, Eastern time pretty confidently. And then The next date I have in mind that looks favorable is there's a new moon on March 13th. That is very, very favorable. And when new moons are indicators of new beginnings, which often in these charts indicate new support levels. So the 13th of March, I would look for kind of a hopeful new supportive alignment there.
I'm very excited about these.
Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to take this information in and correlate it to my portfolio as I have my Delta app up in front of me. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I have to make moves in the next few weeks before my birthday. I have to make sure I have enough Ethereum to catch the birthday pump. The chamber birthday pump is going to be terrific, by the way. I love that. So
it's funny, you kind of said that the other day, is maybe only a couple weeks before we cool down for a little bit.
What?
Right? Didn't you say that?
I did say that. I did say that.
I think you found a new calling, maybe.
Oh, you
need to start doing some more research.
Separate podcast, Chamber and Maren. Maren and Chamber. Maren and Chamber is better. So we hinted to it earlier. You have a REKT podcast chart for us?
Yeah, I got the information to look at the birth date or the inception of the podcast, and we can definitely look at that.
Okay, so that's how this works, right? Yeah, so that's how this works, right? It's based upon the inception date and location of a certain thing, right? So so where so a date of our first podcast. What did you give her, Chamber?
So I gave her. I think it's pretty accurate. The only thing that was a little tricky was the place. So I had told her. What did I have? I have it here. I would have
said where you're located. I would have said where you were located.
Where I'm located? See, I think you were recording at the time.
Oh, well, maybe, but I was thinking more. It depends on the date you gave her, because I'm thinking, okay, is it the date you asked me to marry you, or is it the date that we conceived the podcast? You know what I mean?
What did I give? I can't see the notes here.
I have the info here. I have June 28th, 2018.
Okay, so that's the day of our first podcast
in New Jersey.
Yeah, so that would be the date of our first recording. So that's okay. I think that's pretty spot on, actually.
And I put it at, I think I put it at 9 p.m. because I feel like that's when we recorded.
Yeah, and that gives you, like, giving that chart gives you a ton of leeway before anything. Like, some charts, I'll get them and I'm like, oh my God, if it's 1 minute later, the entire thing changes. This does not. So like 30 minutes either direction would still pretty much have the same chart.
So it could be really that tight in either direction, right? Down to the minute then?
Yeah, depending on your location and your exact time. If anything's rounded, it's a big red flag. But thankfully in this case, it's not problematic.
Well, I kind of like that because, I think when people maybe would have criticism of, astrology or whatever, they would probably say, oh, it's too many generalizations, right? But if you can say, hey, well, if it was 1 minute later, it would look totally different. I think that gives some degree of accuracy to it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like the generalizations are... Some things have to be generalized if you're putting out information like on the internet and need to speak about general topics. But when you're actually making like precise predictions, it's like beyond specific to the point where when we're wrong, we're really wrong. It's not. Yeah.
That's interesting. All right. So we went with June 28th, 2018, 9:00 p.m. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Let's hear it. I'm kind of nervous here.
What are you looking at? Do you want to hear about the chart itself and like how I would describe the podcast, or what's coming up, or both?
Let's do both.
Okay, so initially the chart is a Capricorn rising, meaning that the sign of Capricorn was coming up over the eastern horizon at its time of inception and kind of represents the identity, the personality of what this is. I'm a fellow Capricorn rising. We're dry, we're serious, we tend to be funny, kind of off-putting, only a certain kind of humor. We can be kind of stoic or, dry, cold, but we mean very well. You have Saturn in the first house, which is a planet further of restriction and like seriousness, but also being really funny and like dry with it, kind of like Scrooge energy. Yeah. You have the moon in Cap. So you have 3 planets in this first house, which is a great deal of planets. So there's a lot of emphasis on like the identity of this show and the hosts being important to the identity, whereas like other charts of creative pursuits can focus more on like other things. There's a lot of focus here on hosts and like the identity of those individuals themselves.
That's so you very accurate.
Yeah, you have the moon there, and the moon is actually really open and receptive, which I think goes to be testament to like you're not like so dry to where it's a meme of like how serious can you be. It's actually you're open and receptive as you are, more sarcastic like that. And then you have the planet Pluto there, which is an amplifier. So there's this, but on a larger scale. Like it's dry, kind of serious, talks about topics that are, finance related. So that's more grounded, but there's also some warmth and some openness to hearing other people's opinions and speaking on a comfortable level. Yeah, that's a little bit just about that one section.
What do you think of that, Chamber?
I do love our solo episodes.
Look, I think I have big Scrooge energy. So.
You do have big Scrooge energy, 100%.
Yeah. I would say that's probably pretty accurate, man.
I agree. So that's our like, kind of like our birth chart.
That's that's like 1/12. I described 1/12 of the birth chart, basically. I can also see, curiously enough, would you say that there's
I'm about to freak out right now.
Would you say that this might be kind of weird because I'm tying in some topics that I might not fully understand, but would you say that the networking aspect and the property or living situation aspect of running the podcast is a great financial strain? If not, I could be off, but it looks like there's like some of the biggest challenge is the need to spend money in a way that is either like connection based and having to reach out to others, and then involves your living situation.
I kind of would say that's probably accurate in some ways, right, Chamber?
I would say the problem is we don't live beside each other. We're too far away.
Right.
So I actually live in Canada, and Bunches from the U.S. So we never sit down and have a show together.
Right.
So I would say that's strenuous.
I'm thinking like, when we set up the business, where was it going to be? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That is true.
Tax issues, things like that, which we're going to have to figure out soon. But that's interesting. And then, there was some host financial strain stuff at some point. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
That is being that what got me to refer to this was a Mars South Node conjunction in your Aquarius second house. And right now in the sky, there's so much going on in Aquarius where it looks like, for one, you're making more income than you're used to, and you're also having to spend more income than you're used to for the show. It's just really exacerbating like that on all levels. And it ends up being like you're getting really bringing up taxes is a good example. Like you're getting really serious about maintaining the level of growth that you're having, and it's like a really serious financial time, not in a bad way, but just really understanding what kind of financial and organizational things you're needing to implement more so than like ever before. That looks like over the past 3 years, it might have been some tension with like, how do we work together? Like some really serious, like, how is this going to work on a personal level? And now it's like, okay, that's done. Let's move on to the financial aspects.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I would say that last couple bits there was probably that was spot on accurate. I would say
that was pretty. Yeah, that was spot on. That's funny.
Cool. So what's next for REKT Podcast?
So it looks like. Yeah, like as of yesterday, very recently, there was a big new beginning around money, either earning income or structuring the way that you will be earning your income.
Stop it.
It's so funny. Chamber's bugging out right Keep going. We'll rate this accuracy when you're done here.
It also looks like there was a lot of frustration. It's still going on. It was a little worse at the end of January around the implications of not being able to change a certain living situation on your creative output, that like something could not change. And that was really frustrating around home, family, or living situation, maybe even children involved. that was like really frustrating with your ability to produce content.
Well, Chamber got robbed.
I did, and you had a baby.
Chamber got robbed. I had a baby. I moved. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other big thing. On a more short-term level, it looks like middle of March, so around March 13th, there will be another kind of a new beginning this time around, maybe topics that you're speaking on. That it actually looks really favorable. It looks like you could be starting to teach or inform in a like not like a beginner's or elementary way necessarily, but you're starting to break down concepts as part of your content, and that is received very well.
Interesting. That's I think that's probably your and Chambers' birth date of your next podcast.
She'll be part of the REKT Media conglomerate.
Chamber, how did she do? Rate that on a scale of 1 to 10.
Like, Bunch, you think I am one way. I am another way. Like, some people know me a different way. Like, if some people heard me entertaining the idea of astrology, they would say that's very off script for what I normally do. So normally I would say I wouldn't agree with these things, but these things are very accurate. The financial stuff.
I can hear you struggling with the skepticism that you had.
It's 100%. I think the March 13 thing is interesting because I have been throwing around the idea of, and this is just more recently,
getting rid of me,
of getting rid of you, and finding some, very popular co-host. No, but I have been throwing around the idea of maybe doing a bit more introductory stuff on the show, where maybe we do like because we have a lot of new listeners now. Maybe do some sort of getting to know crypto, what to do, where to start, that kind of thing. So that is interesting because I have been thinking about that lately. I would say 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Wow. I mean, I would say probably pretty good, pretty accurate on that rating. So you did a fantastic job, Maren.
Thank you.
Yes, that was awesome. What else do we got for today, Chamber, before we get rolling here?
Well, I think we should just touch on quickly, before we get going, the fact that Maren has a connection to a friend of the show.
Yes. So did you... so the friend that we are talking about is Cody, of course. And I'm not sure how familiar... we've had Cody on the show, so people definitely know who he is, but I'll just bring up his handle here. It's at I Hate Cody with 2 E's at the end, which is very fitting for him. But so you guys are actually neighbors, correct?
Yeah, we are. We realized that we live like very, very close to each other.
So is that... you guys had no clue before you got into crypto Twitter, did you? Or was that something that you knew, like when you started and it just happened to be that way?
None. We had no idea until we met through crypto Twitter and then realized that we lived so close to each other.
That's really funny. So we do have to ask, how bad of a neighbor is Cody? So like on a scale of 1 to 10, how messy is he?
I'd say I'm actually probably the messier one. I'm probably the messier one. We're both morning people, so morning coffee works. Okay. So we're both on our shit. But I'd say I'm actually probably the more difficult neighbor. I need help carrying things up the stairs sometimes, so that's a bit more on me.
Who's louder?
Him, definitely.
What else you got, Chamber, here?
I was gonna say, like, does he? Is he a pop-in kind of neighbor now? Like, does he, is
he like a Kramer?
Yeah, yeah. He's not the Kramer of your neighborhood, is he?
I'd say we're both kind of that way. We're both just always just like, hey, are you around? And I'm like, yeah, and then we'll just like hang. So in a way, we're both like that.
I bet you Cody's a good neighbor. I feel I like.
What do you do with all those feet pics he's got hanging around the apartment?
Not my concern. Whatever it is.
Everybody needs to make a living, Bunch.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, to each their own. But Anyway, that's awesome. So that's pretty cool that you ended up being neighbors with somebody from. I mean, it's honestly probably a refreshing thing coming into the new space and all of that kind of stuff. I would imagine.
Very helpful. Cool. Very helpful to
yes.
like teach me some things, keep things in perspective. Yeah, altogether helpful.
So Bunch, cool. I actually have something just before we go. Just like you said, Maren and kind of Cody found each other in crypto Twitter. I actually realized the other day there is somebody that we follow each other. I actually think we're related. I think we're like distant cousins.
What?
I'm not even like we have the same last name. I know where he lives, not too far away from me.
Holy cow! No way.
I have yet to reach out to him to say, hey, this is my real name. Yeah, it's. I'll send you the thing later. But I wanted to know, should I reach out and kind of let him know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, you have to.
I feel too exposed.
If you guys are related,
no, we're 100%. Like I know for a fact we're 100% related.
Is he what, like a second cousin or what?
Probably like a second cousin. Yeah.
I think you have to. I mean, you don't really like people, and
I really don't.
Don't really like your own family, so
I
maybe
really hate
not.
Family
but
more than people. You're right. You're right.
Maybe not. So I'm not really sure, but I think you have to, right? So
okay.
I don't know. What does Maren think?
I say go for it. Why not? Do it.
All right.
Do it. Do it, you wuss.
But then he'll know me.
All right. Well, that is going to do it. That was I think that lived up to the billing, wouldn't you say, Chamber?
I hyped this one up a lot to Bunchu. I said this was going to be a great episode, and I stand by it. I think it's a top 10 episode all time. How about that?
Fantastic. It was
honor.
It was really great. Yeah, it was really great having you on. Thank you very much for sharing all the things that you're doing, your perspective. It was really cool to hear about all of that, and I'm now marking those dates on my calendar so we can be ready for all the activity that is coming our way, Chamber. So
much activity.
Before we get out of here, Maren, where can people find you? Both your TikTok, your Twitter, your Instagram, wherever the heck you are. Where can people find you?
I am on all of those social medias as Maren Altman. No other username ever anywhere, so Maren Altman, pretty easy to find.
That is easy enough. So go check out Maren, be her 1,000,001 TikTok follower, or visit REKT Podcast's new TikTok and be our first. So that's Chamber's going to do that right after the show.
It's going to happen this afternoon. Yeah, it'll be, if you're listening to this right now, there is a TikTok account available.
Hey, and no joke, maybe that's the March 15th or March 13th.
Oh, that's a good point.
Emphasis on our new content. Maybe we're going to be doing some TikTok tutorials there.
Amazing. Amazing.
How to not get wrecked.
Oh my goodness. Don't even get me. Right? There's so much stuff going on in my head right now. I'm about to explode. So we got to end this. I gotta make some TikToks.
Chamber doesn't have a job, so he's going to spend the rest of the day making TikTok content, which is fantastic. Yeah. Like he's got this is your new calling, Chamber. We're going to be TikTok famous.
I just needed the Bunch seal of approval.
Maybe we get that Maren bump when we get our TikTok.
I don't even know how that works. I don't know if we can even get a bump. So we just gotta get that algo going.
Yeah, the algo. That's it. But anyway, Maren, thank you again so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. Any last words before we get out of here, Maren?
May the stars be ever in your favor.
Wow.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. And that's going to do it for us. Until next time, don't get wrecked. And that is financial advice.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. You can help support us by giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and become a REKT patron by signing up for a monthly tier on patreon.com. That's patreon.com/REKT podcast. Don't get wrecked.